Your story has wheels. It pulls and plugs along until you start having difficulty achieving a certain outcome that you're going for. What do you do? What many, many other creators have done? A dangerous game. Attack on Table. Ryan, what are we discussing today, and how are we discussing it?
We're talking about tropes that nope, the things that we hate about them. A trope, I'll just go ahead and kind of outline what a trope is. A trope is a commonly reoccurring motif, plot device, convention in storytelling that normally like people recognize pretty easily, like enemies to lovers, chosen ones, stuff like that. It also refers to a figure of speech in which you use words in a non-literal way, such as metaphors or similes. I think you and I can agree most tropes aren't inherently bad. It kind of boils down to execution or the frequency of their use, maybe even a lack of nuance to them, changing things up. I think notable things that it does that kind of results in the use of tropes that we would consider bad is removing agency. It feels manipulative to the audience, breaks logic, reinforces harmful assumptions of things, and ultimately just wastes the audience investment in your story.
So, we did pull together a list of some commonly distasteful tropes, and I enjoy it, but there were actually quite a few, and we're not going to go through them all tonight. We're going to break this up.
No, I feel like there's plenty of room on the bone for us to kind of break things up.
Yeah, it's like we'll put it in some Tupperware, we'll put it in the fridge, we'll come back later, it'll still be good.
I did want to warn the audience a little bit. This is going to be a little bit different from our normal kind of structure that we've been doing with AOTs. This is more of just a free flow off the top thing as we tackle each one.
Oh yeah, it's hard to attack. I should say it is hard to table. There's not a whole lot we can do for in-depth advice other than execute it better or
try
don't.
It differently. Yeah, or don't. Yeah.
Or no. So, well, the first one I thought when we were discussing this previously was kind of an interesting one, and it's the fridged character. That's a character which apparently is often a woman. They're harmed or killed solely to be the initiation of another character's journey. They only exist in order to, I guess, be the inciting incident. How about that? And that is just that's a useful tool, but if the audience doesn't care about them or be made to care about them first, then how can they go on that emotional journey with the character? Your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, it also kind of gets marred in there with the disposable love interest, which isn't as like finite, like I don't know, finite, but like fatal all the time. Sometimes it's just a character that is in there for a twist or some sort of backstab or betrayal. I think ultimately they're trying to get down to like, don't create a character purely for the purposes of a plot device.
I
don't necessarily agree with it. I don't know how you feel.
I'm okay. Like, I think of all of the characters that you could fridge, the romantic partner is probably the least dangerous because it probably doesn't take a whole lot to convince your audience that your main character who is incited on their hero's journey is so because they loved their husband or wife very, very much. Like, that probably doesn't take a whole lot of convincing or suspension of disbelief. So, the characters, though, I think you do run the risk of having them be a little bit shallow. And the question you have to ask yourself, and the point that you brought up, was, is it okay for the character to be that shallow in the story you're writing? And if the answer is yes, then go ahead once or twice.
Yeah, I think people, I think a lot of headsy editors or critics out there, writers, get into this space where it's like they really feel like every character should have a fleshed out reality, and it's just like that's not really how stories work. There's a lot of things in stories that are purely there as a device for you to be using, and characters aren't exempt from that. In fact, I feel like it's more like they're the best way to do that. I mean, if we were to stick, let's just go out into like movie land here, right? John Wick, his wife, plot device. We know nothing about the woman. She's about as 2D as a piece of paper can get.
And literally
Luke
hundreds
Skywalker's-
of people died.
Yeah, because of her. Yeah, well, I don't want to say because of her, but yeah, he is. It definitely sets in a motivation for himself. It's something we can latch onto. It really kind of springs off from the dog, but like a lot of that feeling that he has for
right.
the dog, we as the audience input onto his wife, because it was like the last loving act from her to him.
Yes.
But Luke Skywalker's aunt and uncle, they get like a total of 5 minutes of screen time before they're wiped off the face of the earth, and that like is the inciting incident for him to leave and go off on his journey. Like, these things are there for us to use, and I don't think we should be telling authors not to use them. I think you just need to understand the type of story you're telling and
I'm gonna
the frequency in which it's
jump
used.
in real quick with Luke's aunt and uncle. You do have time with them in A New Hope. The time enough for them to kind of demonstrate that Luke wants more than the simple water farming life or whatever it was that he was doing, but also the kind of parents that they were to him and everything too. And that, I feel like that was enough to kind of show that there was loss to him in that aspect. I think before we go on to the next one, because there's too many to talk about, we should say, like, just, you don't want every character to be one-dimensional or two-dimensional. So I think what you were kind of saying was there's just a risk in overcorrecting in either direction. Not all of your characters have to be super special and totally fleshed out, but you need to make sure that the ones who are in more than a couple of paragraphs probably ought to be.
I think, and again, not to belabor it, but I think I agree to the point of, I think what we're trying to say is, if you're going to have a character that's purpose is to die to create some motivation or some feeling for your main character, then you should at least give them enough filled outness to where they feel like genuine people, not just plot devices.
Right.
And I can get behind that.
Yeah, and a full character without a purpose in the story is still a meaningful character. It's not just the guy you bump shoulders with walking down the sidewalk. Let's go to the next one, and we've been avoiding this one for a while, and I feel like we're gonna still kind of kick the can down the road a little bit, but the Mary Sues and the Gary Stews, which is my first time hearing that one. You're automatically good at everything protagonists.
Yeah, the unrealistically like perfection of a person.
Yeah, here's how you handle those. Don't. Moving on.
So I'm of the mindset, if you're gonna create a character that is based off of yourself, it is better to focus on the negative aspects of yourself than the positives. I don't have a problem with you being like, hey, I feel like I've endured some stuff or went through some things. Let me create a character based off of that. That's fine. But
Yeah,
don't glorify yourself. That's no one's gonna be interested in that.
agreed. We're still gonna dive into that one deeper. We both had
Yeah.
big feelings about this next one, and I'm kind of excited to kind of get to it. The evil, disfigured, or disabled villain. So
Yeah.
re-
Why don't you go
redundant.
first? Like, I feel like I'll rip into it a little bit, but we 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 kind of talked a little bit beforehand, but I don't think you really like fleshed out what you were saying when we were talking the first time. You kind of just glossed over it.
Well, I mean, I'm of the opinion that there's a whole lot of villain sympathy running rampant in storytelling nowadays. Your villain can be evil without being relatable and still be a good character. And um, one thing that I feel like it used to happen a whole lot more was a disfigured villain. Like, and the person who pops right into my head is the Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. Just most of the, if you like get into the legends tales and all of the stories about the ancient Sith and everything, the overuse of the dark side because it was a corrupting force and that you were trying to tame and have control over, it took a physical toll on you. It warped your body and made you have no hair on your eyebrows, but made them very furrowed and falling over themselves with your yellow eyes and your nasty teeth and stuff. uh it was a telltale sign that who you were looking at, it was them to their core, rotten, and you just knew by looking at them that they were not there to help you. And I think that that's a totally legitimate um like thing to do to your characters if you want to equate that they're corrupted by something or they are bad.
Yeah, I think it was a mainstay for a long time, especially in fantasy, where like your villain, your big bad evil guy was, some monstrous thing, some undead lord or something like that. And now we've come so far of doing that where it's like that's a cliche. And but I'm also on the vein of like I feel like we're kind of in this weird space where for so long we've been trying to flip the coin on that, where the evil person is not what we expect, and now that's becoming a cliche trope.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't think it's that important. I think if your story fits it, if you feel like your character should have some deformity or look ugly or be monstrous, then that's what you should do. If
Yep.
you feel like it fits better for them not to do that, then do that. I'm personally I'm a fan of the ugly villain and like the pristine hero, this good versus evil thing. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's just a simpler form of storytelling.
Well, yeah, and it
Like,
comes down
I
to.
don't think every
I'm sorry, I
go
didn't
on.
mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying I don't think everything needs to be super complex. Sometimes a simple story is a good one.
Well, I think a story ought to be complicated to some degree just for the sake of it being something for your audience to chew on, but that doesn't have to be the way that it is complex. Um, you don't have to understand your villain. Your villain doesn't have to be beautiful, but to your point, it is kind of a personal um it's a personal preference deal to the author or the writer or the movie maker or whatever, that if that is how it fits your story, if you can make it make sense, then do it. I don't think that really that's anything that should even be a trope. um just like what you said, for everybody got sick of it. Now every villain is understandable and pretty, to a wide degree, and maybe the pendulum's about to start swinging the other way again. Who knows?
Yeah.
Uh, but just write what makes sense to your story. If your villain ought to be ugly, make your villain ugly. What's the next one we
Yeah.
got here?
I think it's the manic pixie dream archetype. That's a weird title for it. Basically, what they're talking about is like a quirky character, often a female, mixed with in like their brooding counterpart. And I disagree with this being a bad trope. I think to me it's the same as like having a buddy cop situation. It's like these two things aren't meant to go together. It's fun to watch them interact. It's
Yeah.
I don't think it's a trope. I don't think it's a bad trope. It's definitely a trope.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of people say it lacks inner life or agency, and I'm just like that doesn't make any sense to me.
I have 2 words to say to that, and I apologize for my pronunciation, but Kenpachi Yachiru. I'm a fan of Bleach, and that is one of my favorite dynamics in the entirety of the show. I don't even like that she isn't around right now with the 1,000-Year Blood War arc stuff in the anime, but I know I'm familiar with the manga. I know what's coming and all that, but it is seeing them together when you first meet them. There's not another dynamic like it in the whole story of Bleach, and I think it's a lot of fun, and it really kind of makes their dynamic makes both characters come alive to some degree. So I don't think I really agree with that being a distasteful trope at all. If you can make it work, then do it. But
And for those that don't know what we're talking about, Kenpachi Zaraki is like just a real brute of a person.
bloodthirsty.
Like he is extremely dark and deadly, and he doesn't have a lot of personality in there if it's not killing people. And so to have this character that like
is a quarter of his size, pink-haired, bubbly and happy, not to be f***ed with, but very entertaining and just the exact mirror opposite of him.
And they like see each other as equals. Like they're not like, it's not like she's his sidekick or anything like that.
Oh.
I feel like her presence really helps kind of like bring him more depth, because without her being there, you just have him, and he is definitely just a hammer in a world full of nails.
Right. And if you're not a nail, he will make you a nail anyway. And she helps the audience see that there is more to him. He just saves it for very specific people and companions. And that is a good way, in my eyes, to show and not tell that there is a wider personality behind the actions of a character. So
100%.
It was.
I think that kind of leads us into I mean, this is kind of more grandscaping things, not like necessarily character stuff. This is like story stuff, which is it was all a dream at the end, or Deus Ex Machina. One could argue they kind of have like a little bit of a similar tinge. It was all a dream.
They're both gross.
You wake up, or like the character experiences this whole story, and then you wake up at the end to find out it was just a dream or a nightmare, depending on the story. And Deus Ex Machina is the god in the machine, effectively seeing the author's hand at work. One could argue that there's a little room for both in that, and it can feel like it robs the audience of something.
The "it was all a dream" one kind of bothers me, but I don't think it's as offensive as a Deus Ex Machina. When it's just something falls out of somebody's pocket that solves all your problems and then it goes away. I'm just having difficulty thinking. For a different example then, how about if anybody is familiar with the Legacy of Kain series, in Blood Omen 2, there is this thing called the Nexus Stone that cancels out the abilities of the Soul Reaver, the only device. No, that's wrong. the Soul Reaver is like the big focal point of a lot of the events of the 5 game series in and of itself. And this Nexus Stone shows up in Blood Omen 2 to give credence to the idea of Cain got defeated, which hadn't happened in the timeline. See our episode coming up and or already aired about time travel. Where it shows up in the game of Blood Omen 2 to be an excuse as to why Cain was defeated and kind of laid out and weakened. And then it disappears. Yes, we know how it disappears, but it's never referred to again. It's just there to cause some problem for your character. I understand the game mechanic of that and having to kind of re-strengthen your character, your playable character, over and over again, but it's just, it feels shallow from a storytelling perspective. And there not being any real lore behind it. Wasn't a fan.
So I actually feel like what you're describing, because we've talked about it a few times, I feel like it's something different than what Deus Ex Machina is. I feel like there should be another category of just the overpowered MacGuffin, because that's really what that is. I mean, it's an aspect of the story. It's not out of left field. It's just it does too much to the point to where it kind of ruins the story.
I will argue with you only on the grounds of, like, because it says Deus Ex Machina, the god of the machine, God being the writer, for, you know, to go along with the allegory. The person who's creating the storyline is just the person who is inserting this MacGuffin. Like, you're right, it is a MacGuffin, but the writer put it there, and I don't like it.
I clearly, I think when I think Deus Ex Machina, I think like, oh, we're running through the castle to escape the Kingsguard or whatever, and by some miracle, all the doors we encounter are unlocked. You know, like that,
Yeah.
or we've encountered a locked door, but one of my characters just happened to pick up a key along the way and then done. You know,
yeah.
That feels more like you're getting in the story fidgeting with things that need not be fidgeted with for the purposes of an easy solution.
Yeah. I feel like it's the same effect, but by different methods, and all of it is, call me a douchebag, lazy. And I'm guilty of it too.
On to the next one.
I'm guilty of it too. I had in Bleeding the Divine, I needed something to happen, and I'm not giving out spoilers or nothing, but I had the perfect dude show up at a point in the story where I just could not. I had written myself into a corner, so I am also guilty of it. Hate me if you must.
I just want to backtrack to It Was All a Dream. I just think in regards to that, I think there's like 2 kind of acceptable ways to do it. The one is going to be really hard for a novel, and that is like the way that they did in Breaking Bad, where, you know, the actor as a character woke up as a prior character from a completely different role, and he was like, oh, I had this crazy dream, and that's more of like a comedic nod. And I don't think you could do that in a story, in a narrative book very well. But the other one would be something closer to like Inception, in which it wasn't, oh, it was all a dream. It was more of a question of, is what we are experiencing now a dream? Yeah. And that there's a little bit more room for that to kind of happen. But
that asks a bigger question.
The
dreams are used more as a tool rather than just never mind. Which is how I feel this particular point being made is probably criticizing that. Like
the problem with having this whole story be done, and then your character or someone wakes up and it's, oh, that was all a dream. It essentially makes everything we did pointless. And so then, like, as the reader, you're just like, well, this is worthless. It's not like this dream's ever going to continue or anything like that. Like, it's, you know, so it's like, what's the point of me reading anymore? I'm sure there's a way to make it interesting, but you'd have to sit on it and think about it for a long time. I want to go on to our next one, which is miscommunication as the only form of conflict.
That's stupid.
Uh,
Your entire story could have been, and all the conflict in it could have been prevented by the character going, "What?
what?
What'd you
Or
say?"
just simply understanding a simple thing. You
Yes.
know, I hate when whole ass journeys are created because like Jessica didn't listen to Tiffany correctly, and suddenly it's like this whole
16
thing's
love
blown out of
triangles
proportion.
later, they finally make up and become friends.
Yeah, you're just like, really? You guys couldn't have just talked and
Yep.
figured this out in 2 minutes?
It
Yeah,
is.
I dislike that. It feels artificial, feels
Yeah,
forced.
it says that the criticism is artificial tension, and I think that that is amazing because that is a weak premise for any kind of conflict. When, especially in the real world, you get away so often with just being like, "Heck, wait, did I hear that right? Or did you do this because X or Y?"
You've created a conflict from nothing. The writer has created a conflict that doesn't make sense,
Yeah,
like a straw man conflict.
yeah. Like whatever it is, it's a reach. Um, and
Yeah.
then like the bigger the scale of your conflict is like the more it's like this. Did this really all happen? Don't mind the fact that my voice cracked there. Did this really all happen because somebody misheard somebody? I would feel stupid as to be a part of a world where it is a just population-wide civil war because two dudes misunderstood each other. So, I'm equally displeased by the next one, which is plot armor. The character can't die because I said so.
I don't want him to. He's
Right.
my favorite.
Yep. Yes, your main character probably shouldn't die. But if you're gonna save the character, do so believably.
Yeah, well, I mean, believably can be a stretch. I think there's a lot of we give a lot of leeway. Like the whole idea of like, well, this should logically kill someone. I don't think is enough of a logical leap.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the world of fantasy or something that's action packed, because we give a lot of leeway for that stuff. Yeah, like I remember I just watched a movie the other night where an explosion happened essentially 2 feet in front of the main character, and it blew him away and into like a lake. And I'm like, just the sheer like shock force of that would like kill him, let alone any debris or anything like that. But you let it go because it's an action movie, you don't care. And so like I think with some stories you give your character a lot of kind of leeway depending on the story. The more realistic you are, the more realistic those things should be. But I think there's room and freedom a little bit. Just don't make your plot armor like impenetrable.
Yeah. I mean, in the plot armor with the fake out death trope also, they kind of go hand in hand. And I would say that those two are a great example of like where it becomes a distasteful trope if the frequency is too high. If you want to save something miraculous, survival, by all odds you should be dead kind of thing going on, explosions going off 2 feet from your face and everything. I wouldn't do it every chapter without some kind of justification.
I think I wouldn't even try the fake out death unless it was for some comedic reason, like the classic, main character gets pulled off the cliff, friends are at the edge, crying and remorse that he's dead, and then he like walks up behind and is like peeking over. He's like, "What are you guys looking at?"
Yeah.
I think that was Indiana Jones's classic, little nod, funny joke, kind of breaks the tension.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
yeah,
think.
fake out is where it kind of drains people, I think.
Yeah. One more that we're going to touch on this time. We're going to touch on endless escalation without resolution. Let's see. The conflict keeps intensifying but never meaningfully resolves, and it creates fatigue rather than suspense. I don't see how you wouldn't eventually get resolution unless you just stop writing your story. So I get like it maybe the Dragon Ball Z effect, where it's like, how strong do they really need to become, kind of thing. Where it started off mildly realistic, and now they're just basically cosmic beings and everything, and they're gonna get stronger. And I get that. I've been getting that since I was a teenager, but um, like at a certain point, it's going to end.
I don't really think this has happened enough to become a trope.
Yeah, I don't know about this one's place on it. Because it almost demands the caveat of like you have to make the space for somebody just quits writing their story, um, to not have the resolution. And I'm struggling with that one to really find anything. Like, yeah, you can get tired of nothing ever getting resolved or whatever, but or I would say that you probably, if that happens, like if you are going to finish it, the trope would be, rather than not resolving the issues, resolving them poorly.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of in terms of this, because I can't think of anything narratively beyond like a thing I've written, which I'm not going to get into, but like the thing I can think of off the top of my head would be John Wick, like I think it's the latest one, where it's like an easy 45 minutes of just balls to the wall killing and shooting, and it just, like, he's going through an entire house, and then it leads into a street, which then leads him to go up this giant flight of stairs, in which he gets knocked back down and has to go back up. And it's just like, it is exhausting, but it's done for the purpose of you, the audience, feeling as tired as John Wick is. And it works, because by the time he reaches the top, you're like, I am so glad we're done. Let's get on with it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a technique that's done very often for it to be a trope, because it's so hard to do.
Yeah, I don't think that would kind of just cause the whole momentum of the episode to just kind of piddle out there, because I don't have a whole lot of points of reference or any particular big feelings about that one. I don't know that it belongs on the list. Everybody forget about it. If you've got a good example of times that people have done this beyond, say, Ryan's John Wick example, put it down in the comments. I'm curious.
Or anytime I've started talking about something, that would be a great example as well. Endless escalation without resolution.
I have feelings about this now.
Our benevolent patron, Sir Dr. Duncan Esquire, Dr. Duncan Cackworth Esquire.
How dare you?
Almost lost my job. Scribbles and scratchels.
Scribbles and scratchels.
I can mess that up. I can fuck that up.
This is
he
a
won't
train
fire
wreck.
me for that. Yep.
I don't know.
You want to try it again? Start again?
Yeah, you try that again. All right, scribbles and scritches.
God damn it. Speaking of things that we want to announce, we've got a message from our benevolent patron, Sir Dr. Duncan Cackworth Esquire. Sean, you want to...
Get after it, future me.
Kindly lend me your ears, my dear Scribbles and Scratches, and if you've any sense about you, your imaginations as well. The Fitz of Writing has officially turned our lovely telltale writing prompts into a challenge. My idea, of course. What better way to stoke the fires of creativity than with a bit of friendly blood sport betwixt cohorts? To join the fray, submit your tale in the comments of the monthly Telltale prompt, Or if you're too timid to toss your words into the abysmal ether of the internet, simply email us with the heading Telletale or TAT for short, and don't forget to add the month. Fear not, you will not miss our monthly post, for we shall repost it every week. At the end of the month, your gracious hosts shall pick their favorite and provide the winner with a simple yet wondrous audiovisual package of the chosen tale. So, what are you waiting for? Spill some ink, strike the like, and semper scribe.
And we're back.
How do we end these?
Distinctively.